The best way to cache images is using this library called FastImage. It's a very popular library. Look at the number of downloads per month. It's over 280,000 times. So this library gives us an image component that is a replacement for the image component in React Native. It's a lot better. It supports caching, progressive loading, authorization headers, and so on. However, at this time, it's not available for Expo apps. So on this page, expo.canny.io, you can see feature requests that are submitted to the Expo team. So there is a request to add React Native FastImage. Currently, it has over 400 upvotes. If you really like FastImage, you can upvote this request so it gets more attention from the Expo team. Now, all that aside, in this lesson, I'm going to show you an alternative library. So we have this library called React Native Expo Image Cache. This also gives us image caching and progressive loading. So let's copy this and install it using npm or yarn. Okay, now this component relies on Expo Blur. That's a library for applying a blur effect to images. Unfortunately, this is not documented on its GitHub page. So here we have to install Expo Blur using Expo. If you don't install this library, you're going to get a runtime error. So let's install this. Okay, good. Now let's go to our card component because this is where we have our images, right? So here's our image component. This is the image component that comes with React Native. We're going to replace this with a different image component. So on the top, let's remove this image component and import the image component from React Native Expo Image Cache. Okay. Now this component, unfortunately, has a slightly different API from the image component in React Native. So instead of the source property, we should set the URI property. So we set URI to a string, and in this case, that is image URL. So let's save the changes and reload our app. So we get this weird error. Let's reload the app. Okay, the error is gone, but we cannot get the listings because currently my Wi-Fi is turned off. So I'm going to turn it back on. All right, let's reload the app. Good. So all these images are now stored in the file system of this device. So if we go offline and reload the app, we still see the images. So caching is working. However, there is a tiny problem here. Let me reload the app. Note that the images will appear with a tiny delay. Take a look. Did you notice? Let me reload one more time. There you go. So to solve this problem, we can use progressive loading. So we get a very small thumbnail from the server and use it as a placeholder while the image is loading. So look at our listings API. Each listing has an array of images, and each image has two properties: URL, which is what we have used so far, and thumbnail URL, which is a small 100 by 100 pixel thumbnail. So every time we upload an image to the server, our node server automatically generates the thumbnail for us. So in your apps, if you want to support progressive image loading, your server should be able to generate thumbnails. Now, the good news is you don't have to code this yourself. You can use a cloud service called Cloudinary. So take a look, cloudinary.com. With this, we can automate your entire image management lifecycle. So you upload your images to Cloudinary, and Cloudinary automatically generates the thumbnails on the fly. Okay. So back to our app. We're going to use thumbnail URL to implement progressive loading. So our card component currently gets only the image URL. Let's add a new prop here, thumbnail URL. And then we're going to use that in our image component. So here we have a property called preview, which we set to an object with the URI property. We set this to thumbnail URL. Okay. Now save the changes. We have to go to our listings screen. This is where we're using the card component. So we should pass thumbnail URL and set it to item.images of 0, the thumbnail URL. Okay. Let's test our app. So here's our app. I'm going to turn on my Wi-Fi. Okay. Now let's reload the app. All right. Did you see progressive loading? One more time. So we saw the thumbnail with a blur effect. That is why we have to install Expo Blur in addition to this library. Okay. Now our thumbnail has a black tint that looks a bit ugly. Have a look. Do you see the black tint? We can easily change that. So back to our card component. Here we can set tint to light. Now let's reload one more time. That looks much better. One more time. Perfect. Now I'm going to turn off my Wi-Fi. Okay, so we are offline. Let's reload the app. So we have perfect offline support here. All the listings and their images appear. However, if we tap on a card, we don't see the image. This is not a problem with our caching. This is a bug in listing details screen. So let's fix that real quick. We go to listing details screen. So here's our image component. We are setting the source to listing.image. Our listing doesn't have a property called image. So these should be images of 0. We want to show the first image. Now in the future, we can add a slider so the user can slide between multiple images. Now here we can also use our new image component. So on the top, let's remove the image component from React Native and import the image component from React Native Expo image cache. Now, just like before, we're going to set the URI to listing.images of 0.url, and we're going to set preview to an object with the URI property set to listing.images of 0.thumbnail URL. We can also apply a tint of light. So we are using this image component exactly like the image component on our card. Okay. Now, here's our image. Beautiful. Let's pull this down. Look at another listing. Perfect. We also have that beautiful progressive loading effect. Did you notice that? Did you see the blur effect? It looks really nice. So we're done with this step. Let's move on to the next lesson.